Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy. And thanks for joining us today, October 10th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, to start us off today, we have the Abbot Orsini, who tells us that they celebrate Our Lady of the Cloister in Besançon in Château, France. And then we're told that the image of Our Lady, placed in the cloister of La Madeleine, was preserved from a fire in 1624, although the niche where it stood was reduced to ashes. Likewise, today in the United States, we celebrate Mary our Queen, and this is in Baltimore, Maryland. And the story goes back to 1904, when a cigar spark in a dry goods store ignited the Baltimore fire, which destroyed over 1,000 buildings in its 30-hour rampage. Early on, the firefighters realized they couldn't stop this huge fire by the usual means, so they tried to dynamite buildings that were in its path. As flames headed for another dry goods store, the owner, Thomas O'Neill, refused to have his premises blown up. That's probably a smart idea. The story goes that he went for divine help to a Carmelite convent, and after the nuns prayed, the wind turned just as the flames were licking the south wall of his store. His business was saved. Meanwhile, as you might have expected, the dynamite only made the situation worse, which set more buildings ablaze while the fire raged on. When O'Neill died, some 15 years later, in 1919, he died a wealthy man and left the majority of his fortune to the Catholic Diocese of Baltimore in order to build a new cathedral. The ground for that new cathedral wasn't broken until, you guessed it, October 10th, but 1954. One day after Pope Pius XII instituted the new feast of the Blessed Virgin Mary Queen. On that feast day, May 31st, 1955, Archbishop Francis Coe presided over the laying of the cathedral's cornerstone. The new Cathedral of Mary our Queen was finally dedicated in 1959. Likewise, we're also told that today they celebrate Notre Dame du Pont, Our Lady of the Bridge, in Brendon-Chantal, Auvergne-Rhône Alps in France. This chapel was founded in 1623. And then we also celebrate in Italy, this is a little more in detail, the apparition of Madonna della Misericordia in Gallivaggio, in Sondrio in Italy, right? So it was October 10th, 1492, that Our Lady appeared to two poor peasant girls who were gathering up chestnuts for their families, right? She's called Our Lady of Mercy because she had her divine child in her arms, and she begged 3 times, mercy, 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 right? So anyways, this was it was just a very difficult time in this region in Italy. It was poor, there were lots of fights, and it says that Lutheran reform was advancing. Guralle, this place is a wild forest with wild chestnuts, right? And so in this place, on Wednesday, October 10th, 1492, early in the morning, 2 young girls from the Busetti and Gianotti families were gathering chestnuts, right? They were very important to have food for the poor families. And so these girls were working very hard to gather as many as they could. And so after they had worked for a long time, they sat down, were very tired, on a rock, which was next to this swampy area, in order to rest. All of a sudden, they saw an unexpected light, right? That they couldn't be confused with the light of the sun because it was so, they said, bright and different. There was a girl who appeared to them, who kept getting bigger, right? And so then she became a majestic woman. There was a veil on her head which went all the way down her back, and there were angels dancing around her. It says like butterflies. Her feet were on one of the many stumps in the area. The girls were both surprised and scared, sure that they had found the Blessed Virgin Mary, and so they knelt down and asked. It's very beautiful. They asked her why she would come to this place that's in the middle of nowhere. And Our Lady was very polite and very friendly with them. It says after she asked them how their gathering of chestnuts went, and if it had been enough, she said, "I'll go to every place where there's sinners who need to be converted. My son is disgusted with the conduct of men, and I have put myself in between, begging him for mercy. tell the sinners that if they do not change their ways, if they do not observe the obligations to keep the feast days, if they don't pray and do works of penance, the anger of my son will come down terribly to punish humanity. But only in this way, like if you pray and keep your obligations, will he hear my prayer for your salvation. With that said, Our Lady disappeared, right? You can imagine how happy and enthusiastic these girls were when they, went and told everybody what had happened. However, unfortunately, obviously, these are poor girls, uneducated, people didn't believe them. But what happened? Well, there were many graces and miracles that started happening. In fact, there was a dead child who was brought back to life just as soon as he was set on the place where Our Lady had laid her feet. I guess it's a rock there. And so then actually that enthusiasm became good works. And even though it was winter, in December, they began building a small church that would be blessed on May 31st, 1493, right? 7 months after the apparitions, right? A few years later, that little chapel became a proper church, and now it has become a huge sanctuary with 3 naves. That church, the big church, was begun in 1598 and was finally consecrated in 1615. We also celebrate La Virgen de las Injurias, Our Lady of the Injuries, in Calosa din Sarria, Marina Masia, Alicante, in Valencia, Spain. This statue was solemnly crowned in 1954. We also celebrate Goa Maria Kaliori in Kalibagor in Banyumas, Central Java, Indonesia. That means the Mary Grotto. Pope St. John Paul II blessed that statue in 1989. And last but not least, we also celebrate Maria Himmelfahrt in St. Margen, Breslau-Hochsee-Waldswald, Baden-Württemberg, Germany. That means Mary's Assumption, in case you didn't understand my excellent German. The miraculous statue dates from the 1100s, and it was returned to the monastery church in the Black Forest on October 10th, 1723. And every second Sunday in October, there is a pilgrimage to that image. And so this is what we're celebrating today in the Marian world on October 10th. For today's reading from True Devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary by St. Louis de Montfort, we continue with part 1 on devotion to Our Blessed Lady in general, and we're considering, as we said, it's like subsection 1 on false devotions to Our Lady. So yesterday, we heard about the first set of false devotions. These are the critical devotees. And the second we have is the scrupulous devotees, right? So we'll see what he says, and then we'll consider it a little bit, right? Point 94. The scrupulous devotees are those who fear to dishonor the Son by honoring the Mother, to abase the one and elevating the other. They cannot bear that we should attribute to Our Lady the most just praises which the Holy Fathers have given her. It is all they can do to endure that there should be more people before the altar of the Blessed Virgin than before the Blessed Sacrament, as if the one was contrary to the other, as if those who prayed to Our Blessed Lady did not pray to Jesus Christ by her. They are unwilling that we should speak so often of Our Lady and address ourselves so frequently to her. These are the favorite sentences constantly in their mouths. To what end are so many chaplets, so many confraternities, so many external devotions to the Blessed Virgin? There is much of ignorance in all this. It makes a mummery of our religion. Speak to us of those who are devout to Jesus Christ. Yet they often name him without uncovering. I say this by way of parenthesis. We must have recourse to Jesus Christ. He is our only mediator. We must preach Jesus Christ. This is the solid devotion. What they say is true in a certain sense, but it is very dangerous when, by the application they make of it, they hinder devotion to Our Blessed Lady. And it is, under the pretext of a greater good, a subtle snare of the evil one. For never do we honor Jesus Christ more than when we are most honoring his Blessed Mother. Indeed, we only honor Mary that we may the more perfectly honor Jesus, inasmuch as we only go to her as to the way in which we are to find the end which we are seeking, which is Jesus. Point 95. The Church, with the Holy Ghost, blesses Our Lady first and our Lord second. Benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Jesus. So that's from the Hail Mary in Latin. He said, blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus. It is not that Mary is more than Jesus, or even equal to him. That would be an intolerable heresy. But it is that, in order to bless Jesus more perfectly, we must begin by blessing Mary. Let us then say with all the true clients of Our Lady, against these false, scrupulous devotees, O Mary, thou art blessed among all women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. So again, here, St. Louis de Montfort's point is these scrupulous devotees, probably, with good intentions, they are worried about honoring Jesus or honoring Mary too much, and then in that way dishonoring the Son. But as he points out, he's like, well, the two things go together. He draws this nice analogy. He says, these are the people who are worried that, people are praying before the altar, the statue of Our Lady, and not before the Blessed Sacrament. He says, as if one were contrary to the other, right? As if those who prayed to Our Blessed Lady didn't pray to Jesus by means of her, right? And so that's always important to keep in mind. We don't want to fall in this group because sometimes people are, I need to be careful because I don't want to love, Mary too much. And I think it was St. Francis de Sales who said, don't worry, you can never love Mary as much as Jesus loved her. So, it's not a danger that we might love Mary too much. It's just impossible. And then again, Mary is going to do what? She always, without fail, because she's without sin, she has no desire to see herself exalted more than Jesus. She has no desire to take his place. She's, again, perfect. Obviously, what she's always going to do is bring us to Jesus Christ.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed our Marian podcast. As St. John Paul II teaches us, from Mary we learn to love Christ her Son, the Son of God. Through her intercession, may we grow ever closer to Him. We encourage you to share this with a loved one or friend and help spread our devotion to Mary. Thank you, and God bless.